Welcome to this explainer. We're about to take a beautifully cinematic journey, stepping 2,000 years back into the ancient Tamil Sangam period. We're going to explore what is honestly a miraculous botanical catalog, one that served as the literal vocabulary for human emotion. Just imagine a civilization so deeply intertwined with its ecosystem that flowers weren't just background scenery. No, they were the language of love, war, timekeeping, and the divine. We're looking at a text that's a museum-grade masterpiece of natural beauty. Let's get right into it.
So let's dive into this beautifully immersive text by the legendary poet Kapilar. It's honestly amazing to see how he masterfully listed 99 distinct flowers in a single poem, the Kurinjipaatu, to mirror the breathtaking biodiversity of the ancient Tamil landscape. And this wasn't just some random assortment of plants he jotted down. It was a deliberate, poetic framing of the entire environment. Kapilar somehow managed to weave almost 100 specific floral species into one cohesive narrative, which is just an absolutely stunning feat of both literary and botanical observation.
Now, what's really fascinating about the word Kurinji itself is how it functions. It isn't just a plant. It defines an entire geographic region, specifically the mountains. But wait, it's also the name of a deeply evocative genre of love poetry. And, of course, it's the incredibly rare Nila Kurinji flower itself. This brilliantly illustrates how, for the ancient Tamils, geography, botany, and human emotion were inextricably linked into one single powerful concept.
Instead of a simple, dry, scientific index that you might find in a modern botany textbook, Kapilar wove these flowers into a profound narrative. The text reflects the shifting seasons and the cyclical nature of human life. The ancients viewed these 99 blooms as a deeply emotional and temporal journey. By reading the landscape around them, they were effectively reading the calendar of their own lives, understanding exactly where they stood in the grand rhythm of nature. And this builds such a profound natural rhythm. As the seasons transition from spring, or Ilavinil, to the Kar monsoon, and finally into the Margaji winter, the landscape paints itself with entirely different textures, scents, and colors. Think about it. The Shenbagam and Kongam announce the warmth. Then, the Mulai jasmine opens in the rainy evenings. And finally, the dense Suli tree stands resilient in the freezing winter. The Flora literally was the calendar.
Section 1. Blooms of the Seasons, a Living Calendar.
This beautifully illustrates how intimately the ancients tracked time. The ambal, which is a white water lily, blooms under the moonlight to mark the serene night, only to close right as the sun rises. Perfectly juxtaposed against that is the tamarai, the lotus, which eagerly opens its petals to herald the breaking dawn and then closes at dusk. By simply glancing out at the ponds and rivers, you instantly knew the exact phase of the day. When spring arrived, the forests transformed into an absolute sensory masterpiece. The golden hues of the Kongam flower literally mimicked spun gold hanging in the trees, while the Shenbagam brought this rich, cooling fragrance to the warming air. Over on the coasts, the ganajal bloomed with petals shaped remarkably like tiger claws. Meanwhile, high up in the mountains, the kudasam burst forth in brilliant, stark white. It's just a rich visual storytelling of a landscape coming fully alive.
Section 2. Metaphors for human emotion.
Consider this striking contrast in the human experience. On one hand, you have the anatrom flower, which represents the utmost fragility of feelings. It's so incredibly delicate that it wilts if it's merely smelled or breathed upon heavily. Talk about high maintenance, right? Contrast that with the vakai, the hardy cerisa wood known for its unyielding resilience. In ancient times, the vakai flower was actually presented to warriors as a crown to symbolize ultimate military victory. Two flowers, two entirely different spectrums of human life.
There's an ancient quote from the Thirukkural that shows how deeply the anatrom flower was woven into cultural philosophy. It serves as a powerful, elegant reminder of how delicate human relationships truly are. Because just as the physical flower collapses under a harsh breath, human hospitality and a guest's comfort can be instantly destroyed by a single cold, unwelcoming glance. It's a stunning psychological observation, perfectly wrapped in a botanical metaphor.
And the visual poetry continues with the Kuvalai flower. This stunning purple and blue Indian water lily was exclusively reserved in Sangam literature to describe the captivating depth of the human gaze. When a poet wanted to convey the profound, striking beauty of a woman's eyes, they didn't just throw out a standard adjective. Instead, they invoked the deep, mysterious purples of the Kuvalai, resting quietly in a mountain spring.
Section 3. Rituals, Temples, and Daily Life. Every branch, every petal had a vital purpose. The three-leaf structure of the vilvum was deeply sacred, offered in grand Shiva temples, while the Kulavagi wild jasmine was integral for rituals surrounding the deity Murugan. But it was also intensely practical. The incredibly dense suli wood, known as Salem ebony, was essential because it could burn even in moist conditions, keeping devotees warm during their freezing morning fasts in the Margazhi winter. Meanwhile, the veral, or small bamboo, provided the literal baskets that carried everyday life.
Section 4. The Visual Color Catalog. This visual catalog shows exactly how the landscape was vividly painted. You had fiery reds like the kanthal, the vechi, and the soli blooms, igniting the green forests. For a serene contrast, you had the luminous, starlit whites of the ambal and mulai, and adding rich, cooling shadows to the canvas were the deep, mysterious blues and purples of the kuvalai and karuvilai. It's a perfectly balanced visual identity organized purely by nature herself.
Imagine walking through a misty, dark mountain pass and suddenly encountering the kanthal. According to ancient texts, its brilliant red petals literally look like glowing flames or beautifully manicured fingers emerging directly from the earth. The level of observation here is so refined, turning a simple hillside walk into a dramatic, emotional encounter.
Section 5. A timeless natural heritage.
12. 12 years is exactly how long it takes for the miraculous Nila Kurinji flower to bloom. This is a biological cycle so incredibly reliable and honestly so massive in its scale that the local Polyar tribes historically used it to calculate their own ages. They didn't need a printed calendar. The mountains turned a breathtaking blue, and they instantly knew another 12 years of life had passed.
And that brings us to the core takeaway of our explainer. The ancients didn't just look at nature as a passive backdrop to their lives. They read it like a vast, beautiful book, where every flower was a syllable, and every season was a sweeping chapter. Their love, their wars, their spirituality, it was all inextricably rooted in knowing the precise names, smells, and blooming cycles of their local ecosystem.
Which leaves us with a profound, almost uncomfortable thought. If we were asked to write the poem of our own landscape today, how many of those 99 flowers would we even recognize? Would we know the names of the blooms outside our own windows? And more importantly, would we know what they say about our lives? Thank you for exploring this magnificent botanical language with me today. Keep looking closely at the world around you because there is always a story waiting to bloom.